At this festive time of the year, I'd like to give back and help Santa. Santa has a LinkedIn profile. Who knew? Now, there are many other Santas on LinkedIn, but I suspect this is the Santa. Well, why do I think that? Well, other than the fact that he's listed as the UK as his address, we know that Santa lives everywhere. But we know he's somewhere in the North Pole, really. But I think he's got a UK address just to kind of create a bit of incognito-ness about him. But let's look at his profile and see how we can help Santa. So Santa has a photo that I think is a good likeness to him from what I've seen. I think that's him. His name's just his name, which is great. He's got a headline, MD of Christmas, makes sense. CEO of Letter from Santa. So we know what he does. He could add a bit more context to that so we can really understand the actual value he brings. But let's look at the top of the profile. This background image, which is a big blank right now. So there's an opportunity for him to position himself as the expert in what he does, or to showcase his personality or his team. So a photo of all his team there lined up with his sleigh would be a great opportunity. Looking down, we've got the About section where you tell your brand story. Now let's have a look here. There's a bit of a story. It's written in the first person, which is perfect, but it's missing a call to action really at the end. I mean, there's a bit of a call to action here. Actually, there's a phone number and a website, so that's a good call to action. And there's asking for donations in here as well. But I'd like to know a little bit more about him. What does he do when he's not delivering presents around the world? How does he prepare? What other services do he and his team do? So a little bit more in here. He's used the features section, which is good to see. We can have a few more things in here though, so let's add a few more bits and pieces. Now the big lack here is activity, but I'm going to come back to that. Let's keep going down the experience section. So he started in 1998. I suspect he was doing it way before that because I think Santa's pretty old. So a couple of examples of his work, but there's no description about his role. So he could say a little bit more about that here. He's got his education. Now it's not connected to a university or educational page. You can see by the grey icon here, but it's there. But maybe the North Pole University don't have a page set up as an educational page. Skills and endorsements. So we've got 3 things that are really important to his role: toys, time management, and working with children. And not only has he got the skills, he's got endorsements, which is fantastic. Further down, recommendations. This is your social proof that you can do the thing you say you can do. And he's had 6 recommendations. Now, I suspect he's got a lot more happy customers than 6. And his last recommendation was in 2014. So I think it's time that Santa reaches out to his network to ask for some recommendations, because I'm sure there's a lot of happy children and parents around the world who would be happy to recommend him. Accomplishments, he's got languages, all languages, of course. That makes sense. But does he belong to an association? Is there a professional body for him to join? Does he have any particular honours and awards or licenses and maybe some projects he's been involved in? Maybe he's published something. That could go in there as well. Now, I want to head back up to activity. Now, if we click on see all, nothing, no activity at all. He hasn't engaged with his network. He hasn't published an article. So he hasn't published his naughty and nice list yet. He hasn't published any posts or any documents. So there's a massive opportunity here to not only establish his credibility even further through content and to be seen by his network, but also to build relationships with his network through commenting on their updates. So I recommend Santa should start doing that. And finally, people also viewed this section here. I like to call them the squatters. They're other people that come up in the algorithm. Now, sometimes they can be your competitors. And in this case, there's another Santa Claus, which I suspect isn't the Santa Claus because he's got another name there. So I would sometimes recommend turning this off just to remove the distractions, because you want people to stay with their attention on you. And also make sure your contact details are up to date. Now, I'm not connected to Santa, but we do have a couple of connections in common. So I can't see his full information. I can see he's customized his URL, which is fantastic, but I don't see any email or phone numbers in here because we're not connected, which is why it's then important to put it in the About section, which he's done, so well done. So I can call him, which is fantastic, but there's no email address here. But there you go. So that's how I would improve Santa's profile. This is my gift to Santa at this time of the year. Maybe you can learn from this quick review in terms of what you could be doing on LinkedIn. And if you love Santa's work, maybe you'll connect to him and write him a recommendation.